Appreciate y'all checking out this show. I think you know who is to the side of me. Kris Johnson, a important piece of UCLA's lore, part of that national championship team in 1995 as only a freshman. You can follow him on Twitter at @PointForwardPro. I'm on Twitter at Bryan Fenley. Kris, how are you doing, man?
Man, I'm doing as well as I can given the current climate with the global pandemic. But it seems like things are getting better, so I'm feeling all right, man. I'm excited to be here, Brian. Thanks for having me on, man.
Oh,
Appreciate
well,
you.
dude, you are an important piece of UCLA basketball history, and your family certainly is as well. And I see that 54 hanging in the rafters in Pauley Pavilion with Johnson's name on it, and I'm like, are you sure that's not Kris? That's not his jersey?
I wish I wasn't that good, but I did ride my dad's coattails for a little bit as a Bruin. It was definitely an honor. It's funny, they retired his jersey along with Walt Hazard, I believe, when I was a sophomore or right before one of our games. I think we were playing Arizona. They had a ceremony, so that's how the jersey got up there. So, but UCLA made an exception for me and my brother Josiah. They let us rock the 5-4.
Yeah, Josiah would always joke when I had him on the podcast. He's like, I just tell everybody that that's me and that jersey represents me.
Yeah, so
So,
you got to get some mileage out of it. Right?
Absolutely. And your family has been so important to UCLA basketball. Like you said, not just you, also your brother, your father. And I go back to that 95 magical year for you when Tyus Edney hit that shot against Missouri, and you were a part of that game, and then your dad was on the radio broadcast of that game, and that's where his infamous, what was it? Yeah, baby, yeah, baby. How many times did he say that in a row?
I mean, it was absolute euphoria. And all he said was, yeah, baby, yeah, baby, yeah, baby, yeah, baby. I mean, each yeah got deeper and deeper.
Yeah.
As he went along, but I felt him. I mean, it was right. I mean, if you could have been there in that gym, in that atmosphere, and about 2 minutes before, the feeling of despair, season's over, we're done, we're left in the water. We had just the season before we had lost to Tulsa in the first round in '94.
Sure.
So '95 was all about redemption for Ed O'Bannon and then Tyus Edney, George Zedek, and this entire crew. So to be there in that moment, 2 minutes before, where you're just like, oh shoot, man, this might be it. I'm starting to think about my plans for spring break. I'm thinking about Cabo and things like that. Like, it's over. You know what I mean? And so the euphoria behind my dad and then our celebration, as you see,
Yeah.
it was warranted. It was warranted.
Well, I want to get into your celebration because so much of the camera. Well, I mean, there were cameras all over the place right after that bucket was made by Edney, and he somehow got that shot over the outstretched fingertips of that Mizzou Tiger defender. And we had J.R. Henderson on the other day, and I asked him about that final play, and he said, I just prayed to myself that Tyus would not pass me the ball because please do not give me the ball and let me try to take the shot. Where were you when this was happening? And ultimately right afterwards in the ensuing, like you said, euphoria.
Yeah, so where I was at the end of the bench, hanging out, I think I might have had my towels on. I used to be really superstitious about wearing different towels. And, so during the course of the year, say we'd be down or we'd be trailing a team. I put the towels or I changed the towel into a certain position and then we end up winning. And so I had that as one of my superstitions. So anyway, I'm adjusting my towel. I just got out the timeout. Coach Herrick had just made his little spiel to Tyus and to the team about the last second play that we were going to run. And I'm on two knees on the bench, kind of leaning forward, looking at the whole deal. And when Tyus hit the shot, I mean, he was coming down towards us, I believe. Yeah, he came down towards us, I believe. If I recall, I'm older now, so I might be getting this wrong. But when he hit the shot, when you saw it go in, first of all, you didn't think he was going to make the shot. First of all, I thought time was going to run out because he had to change direction at half court and go behind his back. So I'm like, oh shoot, this dude's not even going to get a shot up. And the fact that he hit it and then he had his arm stretched like it was way out here.
Yeah,
you're 5'10", taking on I guess 6'8", 6'9" dude to bank it in to go in. And as soon as it dropped, I had up to this point I had experienced a couple of nice last second plays in my career. So I just, you still, every time you see a last second shot or make one, you still can't believe it just happened.
Yeah.
and so Tyus, the shot goes in, and I lose it. I absolutely lose it. The towels come off. I'm running on the court. I'm trying to find Tyus. I'm looking for
Yeah.
teammates. It's pandemonium. I mean, it was pure joy, and I'm still thankful to this day for Tyus. He's a legend of all legends for that, for sure.
He is. And the feeling I get was that was the kind of win that then told you guys, okay, we can do this. Like, we can go the whole way now. That was sort of the wake-up call win where, relatively speaking, you all pretty much just took care of business more or less without too much of a struggle the rest of the way in that tournament as you went on to beat Arkansas. And to do that as a freshman, Kris, and to do that knowing that your dad had also won a national title. And I can't even fathom how rare a company that is for all of these circumstances, for your dad to win a title, for his son to win a title, for you to wear the same jersey number, and to do it at the same school. Like, is this the only person combination that's ever done such a feat? This is just incredible.
Yeah, I think we are. No, Luke and his dad have championships. The Bibbies have championships. Scott May and his son, man, I'm blanking on his name, but he played at North Carolina.
Sure.
They have championships, but none of them have a championship at the same school, let alone 20 years after Coach Wooden's last title. And that this championship, I think what makes it really special at UCLA is that it is the only national championship that UCLA basketball has won where anyone other than John Wooden was coach, right? So it's like 10 championships with John Wooden. You have one, and it was with our team, and that was special to us. I had won 2 state championships in high school, playing on a nationally ranked team at Crenshaw. So I kind of had a great 3 or 4 year run. My dad did my games there, local TV too. So it was a great run for us for basketball, and it was really an honor to win that championship because Coach Wooden meant a lot to me personally. I always obviously viewed him as an icon, but once I had started that personal relationship, he actually called me in high school for a couple games, and once I started, really building that personal relationship, it was a true blessing.
What would he tell you, Kris?
We would talk about my game. I mean, he was always about my style of game. He had been told how I played. People have, back then it wasn't just so easy to just pull up some film and see it, but
Sure.
he watched me play, and he would tell me about my footwork, my positioning. He would talk about things that I needed to improve upon. Number one was conditioning. He always would kind of, have little jokes, if you will, about me losing a little bit of weight and things like that. He felt like he honestly, the impression I got from Coach was that he believed in me. He believed if I lost that 30 pounds that I would be, one of our top guys. And it was so crazy because I lost 50, 55 the summer of my freshman and my sophomore year.
Wow.
And so I went so my freshman year I averaged 1.4 points a game. My sophomore year I averaged 12 and a half. So I ended up having one of the biggest jumps in scoring average. And a lot of there's a lot of factors involved, but I will say that Coach Wooden and our personal relationship was a driving force behind that time in my life.
Fast forwarding, Kris, to your sophomore year, and there was a lot of hype going into that season. Like you said, individually, your stats were such an improvement from a year ago, but then you take on a Princeton team, and that has to go down as one of the biggest upsets in college basketball history.
Sure.
How would you, now that you have given yourself some time to look back at that one, how does it all sit with you now?
It sits a little better.
Okay.
Than it did when it first happened. Princeton, and this is gonna, and like my dad, for instance, my dad lost to Idaho State his senior year, but he always talks about how they had like 5 NBA players. So I'm about to do something similar. Princeton had, I think, 2 or 3 legitimate professionals. They had Steve Goodrich, Mitch Henderson, and then I believe one more guy that made it on some level playing professionally. So they were better. They're a lot better than everybody thought. This wasn't like just some Ivy Leaguers, Smivy Leaguers, just running back doors. They were competitors. They knew how to play, and they had some skill and some talent. The thing that happened that year was totally dysfunctional. I mean, one of the most dysfunctional seasons of basketball I'd ever been a part of. Quite frankly, we let the championship and all the success from the previous year get to our heads.
Gotcha.
And we stopped working. We stopped living in the gym. We started being more concerned with off the court and hanging out. I mean, we're 19, 20-year-old
Yeah.
kids and the toast of LA, and we're able to get into all the clubs and bars and all kind of stuff, Brian, that I won't mention on your podcast. I know you got a PG I know you got a PG audience, but
we want the truth in a way to come out. I mean,
yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
For sure. But all that being said, so when you look at Princeton, I know everybody just looks at it as one game. For us that were a part of it, that went through the whole journey and knew the ins and outs of everything that was going on behind the scenes and what was going down, it was expected. We didn't do right by the game. We didn't do right by UCLA, by Coach Herrick. We didn't do right by anybody, by ourselves that season. We were just, we lost our way for a little bit. And so ultimately we had to pay one of the biggest prices that you have to pay. Nationally embarrassed, defending national champions in front of 32,000 at the RCA Dome. Gus Johnson's the play-by-play, his first major call. Wow. That's what put Gus on the map, right? Because back and look. So all that being said, we deserved it. We were in the airport after the game, headed home. Usually when we traveled as UCLA, people were always, hey, oh wow, Charles O'Bannon, Kris Johnson, UCLA, love you guys. We traveled home from Indiana after that Princeton loss. I remember being in, I think, in Indianapolis, or we had a layover maybe. I can't remember where I was. I just remember people kind of giving us the side eye, like, oh, there's UCLA. They just lost. Like, oh, they lost to Princeton. Like, I'm not going to ask for their autograph. Like, the kids are like, Dad, I don't want his autograph. They just lost to a bunch of Ivy Leaguers. So that it hurt. That loss hurt, but it fueled us for the next season, and we all came back. We all came back a much better group and more focused.
Because that next year, Kris, you guys went to the Elite Eight, right? If I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, went to the Elite Eight. We should again. I'm gonna do that thing again. We lost to Minnesota. we lost to Minnesota, who had 5 NBA players in their starting 5, and Quincy Lewis coming off the bench. I believe he was a first-round draft pick, but. Long story short, we lost to Minnesota, but God, Brian, when I tell you that year was special, that year, it reminded me of this year with the Mick Cronin coach Bruins.
Yeah, okay. Sure.
So listen how it went. 97 coach. So 96 Coach Herrick, offseason Coach Herrick gets fired.
Yeah.
We got the infamous dinner at Monty's. I was there. I was a host. We hosted the Collin twins and Earl Watson. It was myself, Bob Myers, and somebody else's host.
Sure.
Ended up having too many people at the dinner. Boom. Violations. Boom. Pete Dallas, the old AD, not playing that game with Herrick. He's out of there. Steve Lavin steps in. First year coach, young, kind of, energetic, excellent communicator, tremendous in managing personalities, etc. Comes in. We stink it up the first half of the season. We suck. We go to United Center playing Michael Jordan's home, and get smashed by Illinois. We go somewhere. Duke, Kansas came in and beat us by 30, and so it was ugly to start off. We have a team meeting on the road after yet another bad non-conference loss somewhere. I forgot where. And guys got pretty emotional. Guys got pretty heated, passionate, up in each other's faces. This short of blows. Yeah, but the thing that happened was we got some things out on the table, and guys got to express how they felt about each other. And when you're in college, just one of the toughest things to do is tell your teammate or your fellow college man how you feel about it, or you don't like this about it, without it being angry or without it being kind of turned up. So we had that conversation, and out of that, we went on a hell of a run. We ended up finishing getting number 2 seed. They sent us out to Auburn Hills. We played at the Palace, where the Pistons play, and ended up losing to a very good Minnesota team. But that game in particular, we were up 10 with 10 minutes to go. Yeah. Jelani McCoy gets tagged with like a serious elbow from John Thomas. Big guy, got drafted by the Knicks, 6'9", 275. Tagged, bruised sternum, goes out the game. J.R. Henderson picks up his 4th foul. So now JR's out, Jelani's out. That's our 6'10" and our 6'9".
Sure.
So it's me and Bob Myers at the 4 and the 5 for the last 10 minutes of the freaking game, going against, some NBA frontline dudes. And they just overmatched us. Bobby Jackson got hot. They overwhelmed us, and we ended up losing. But, God, that team, I mean, the fan support, the relationship. I mean, we had so many fans that I think we chartered out there. We had a bunch of Bruin fans on the plane. Bruin fans took over the hotel we were staying at. So you go downstairs in the lobby, it's just Bruin everywhere.
Yeah.
I mean, I tell you, that was one of the most special feelings I had ever had in my whole life of basketball. Just opening my door and looking down. It's one of those places where you have that. What is that about? Like, where the middle is open. Those type of hotels, like it's not Embassy Suites, but
Sure.
do you know what that's called? I don't know what that's called, but anyway, I open my hotel room. I look downstairs, and it's just blue and gold.
Wow.
Got the band playing. You got people at the bar chilling, and you just got fans. And the interaction with the fans, the love, the communication, the conversation, the relationships, that's part of what made that era of my UCLA basketball so special. Because you weren't just playing for the team yourselves. You were playing for the legacy. You were playing for John Wooden. You were playing for the 10 titles, the 10 banners. You were playing for the guys that were there before you, the Walt Hazards and the Fred Slaughters and the Captain Lou Alcindor, the Curtis Rose, Sidney Wicks. You know what I mean? Those guys. Dave Myers, Richard White. I can go down the list. I grew up in it, so I bleed it. It's a part of who I am. Make no mistake about it. But anyway, I sidetracked. God, I start talking about UCLA, man. I get all dazed.
Oh, dude, no, this is why we have you on. I love this. And, of course, you know who's talking. This is Kris Johnson. Follow him on Twitter at @PointForwardPro. I'm on Twitter at Bryan Fenley. You brought up Jelani McCoy. We had him on a couple of days ago, and I want to, in just a moment, ask you about the whole Space Jam and the Michael Jordan stuff. We're going to get to that in just a minute. But what I did want to do to kind of finish off particularly UCLA basketball talk, and you slowly hinted at the current status of UCLA basketball and where it went from, like you said, a sputtering start at the beginning of last year to one where it was cut short after a great finish and left us all wondering how good that team could have actually been. And Prince Ali came on the other day, and he called that team last year at the end of the season one of the hottest, most dangerous teams in the country. And I would have loved to see how UCLA would have done if they had the NCAA tournament, if they held the Pac-12 tournament, because they could have just gone on this crazy run.
Yeah.
From your perspective, Kris, what is your take on the status of UCLA moving forward and what they have as far as players? And then we also heard the report out today that Daishen Nix is going to go the G League route of the 5-star guy. And that's a big loss, but we still have a point guard. So personally, Kris, I'm not totally surprised, or I don't think it's going to be as big of a blow to the team as other people expect.
Well, I'll touch on the last part of your statement first. With Nix being out the picture, and you can't blame the kid. He's got the G League came with a bigger bag. I mean, that's just how it goes. I mean, you either go to college for free, you don't have full control of your the use of your likeness and images. You can't really do anything as far as making money. And today's kid likes money, and they're into monetizing their brand early.
Sure.
Okay, because you got guys like Melo Ball, 7 and 8 million followers. They can make cash. Just Mikey Williams, they can make cash just by doing that. So anyway, I don't blame the kid for going. What I do like about losing him, if that's even a statement that makes any sense, the silver lining is it's now Tiger Campbell's team, and he gets to really be on the controls. He's it was looming kind of over his shoulder when this Knicks kid came in. Everybody was kind of thinking about, how are Tiger and Knicks going to mesh and mold together? That was the big question. Now with Knicks out the picture.
Sure.
And look, Tiger Campbell is a kid that spearheaded. He was the point guard on the turnaround when they made the turnaround. So for me, it's like the confidence, the trust that this team has in him at the one. You alleviate a lot of issues. We would love to have Knicks, as I would have loved to have any of the 5 stars that UCLA did not either recruit or sign that went elsewhere. I like having a full cupboard of choices and options when I open my
Definitely.
when I open my cabinet. I want to see some things in there. I want some cookies. I want some crackers. I want some chocolate. I want some sweet, sour punch. You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
yeah,
So,
yeah.
so for me, I like guys. I like being able to say, if this guy leaves early, if this guy gets hurt, we got another guy that's going to do what? Step up, next man up. That's what UCLA basketball has always been for me. We always got somebody that can come in the game when we needed help. Tiger Campbell now gets to move forward, full reins of control. This is his team. He's the leader. There's no drama there. And I also love the fact that they picked up Jalen Clark and Johnny Juzang.
Oh, he's going to be huge. Both of them.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, they both and having I called a couple of Clark's games this year with Etowanda when they played against Sierra Canyon. I was really impressed with his mental approach to the game, his demeanor on the court. He seems like the quintessential Mick Cronin type of player. He's a
Okay.
dog. He's a dog on defense. He's athletic as heck. He's explosive, and he's not scared. It don't matter about who you are. I don't care if you got 5 stars or 6 stars. He's going at you. He went at Brandon Boston. He went at Zaire Williams. He went at all those guys. All those guys. And there was not a lot of answers for him. They just had a better team ultimately. And then Zhuzhang coming in from Kentucky. I love that move. I love him transferring back. Been a fan of his and his brother since they were younger in high school. He came out of the Compton Magic program, one of the top programs in all of the country as far as AAU. But being at Kentucky, experiencing that Kentucky mystique, that aura, and then the Coach Calipari, Kenny Payne structure, the work ethic, the workouts, and all the performance training, everything you got to do when you're out there in Kentucky. He's the kind of guy that comes in once, if we're able to get this quarantine lifted and guys are able to work out again, he's the kind of guy that would lead the workouts, set the example, and take guys up to another level of basketball. See, there's a lot of value in guys like a Zhuzhang and a Clark off the court, outside of when you're in between the lines for 40 minutes. You need to prepare for that type of stuff, and these guys will drive you in practice. So competition is going to be crazy. What the thing I would like to see though from UCLA is that they need to pick up a big. You only got 3 guys. Cody Riley, and you had the red shirt from last year, Nwaba, and my man Jalen Hill, who I like. He's got a lot better. Jalen showed flashes, but you need one more. You need one more big guy in there, big body, preferably the footer. The kid Mark, I can't remember his last name, but he didn't make it. Went to SC, that hurt. Hopefully, there's something left that Coach Cronin could fill this slot with.
Oh man, I just think about Kris, what it would have been like if, say, we had like a Moses Brown on this team too.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
Would have been, and I would.
Jalen Hands. Jalen Hands would have been here.
Yeah, you think about that, and Jalen Hands, Compton Magic, Ike Anabogu, Compton Magic, and you mentioned just how much of a pipeline that program has been for pushing UCLA Bruins, and then ultimately those guys getting their shot at the next level. So speaking of shooting and maybe of the film variety, there's a whole lot of talk. I want to ask you about The Last Dance, obviously your father and his experiences with Michael Jordan on the basketball court that have been noted, but also which Jelani brought up to me was that while they were filming Space Jam with Michael Jordan, UCLA Bruins were on set. What was that all about?
So so the summer we won the championship, it would have been Jelani's freshman year.
Yeah.
Michael Jordan sends a message to UCLA that he's filming a movie. He wants all of us to come up and play. So we go up there, go try to play. It's a ton of competition that's there. It's a ton of NBA players, high level guys that fill in the place. But let me backtrack. So we go up to the lot of Warner Brothers studio, right, in Burbank, California. So you pull up, there's a security guard there, and anytime you're in LA at these studios and security stops you, it's sort of that feeling where you're just kind of like, oh, great, this guy. So when I knew it was going to be a great summer is when I looked at the security guy and I just said, hey, man, I'm here to – Kris Johnson. He knew me. He knew who I was.
Wow.
He was like, go ahead, man. Just look for the big white dome and park next to it. So I'm like, okay, this is about to be a fun summer. So I drive in, I park, and it's this gigantic dome. It looks like, I describe it like one of those secret like government type of I don't know,
Area
secret
51 or something.
yeah, like where you got aliens buried like
Yeah,
two
yeah.
miles down. So it's like that's the cover of it. But
Okay.
you open it up, and it's a full on basketball bonanza. So you have a full court. They brought in Long Beach State, the
Wow.
49ers. So yeah, the court they played on says Long Beach State. It's blue and gold though. And then they had a full set of weights. So every weight you can imagine, Cybex machines, rows,
Wow.
pulls, dumbbells. They had that next to the court. And then next to the weights, you had a situation where you had like a little lounge area with a couple of sectional couches, huge TV sound system. You had a big old refrigerator filled with Gatorade and water, showers, locker room, gambling table, putting green. The thing was absolutely loaded, and it was all created for MJ. He was filming early in the morning till usually in the middle of the evening, and he also needed to prepare for this is the summer of the 72 and 10. So he was coming back after baseball, and he was maligned, and it was is MJ still MJ, etc. So he made it a point to work out like none other that entire summer. He wanted to go against the best of the best. So I mean, that summer I was able. But the thing about the run, when all the heavy hitters started to get there, Patrick Ewing and Nick Van Exel and Magic. I mean, all these guys. Well, Magic wasn't there, but it was just Reggie Miller. I mean, all these guys started to get there. The UCLA guys were it's a totem pole. So, nobody really cared that we had won a national championship. It was tough to get on that court for that
Wow.
five. Yeah, for that five. So guys had to. So for me personally, I know Mike through meeting him a couple of times. I hadn't had like a tremendous, relationship other than meeting him, other than knowing that he loved my dad and him and my dad were cool and all that. So my initiative, after yet another day or another round of not being picked for the run, because we didn't get on the court for a little bit, I went up to Mike. I'm just like, hey Mike, not introduce, kind of introduced myself, and
Yeah.
kind of told him, hey, not I wasn't saying anything about him. I wasn't, being, kind of brown nosing him. My biggest thing was, Mike, they're not letting me play, man. I'm trying to get on the court.
Yeah.
I want to see what's up. I want to play. There's anything you can do. So at that very moment, Jordan tells Tim Grover, his trainer, who's the guy that was picking the teams, he makes it a loud kind of a pronouncement that I'm playing on his team every single day that I come up here. Make sure that he don't want to see me standing on the sideline unless we lose, and we not go lose. And that's what he said. We not go lose. So ultimately, Jordan would pick me every single day. This is the summer where I went from averaging 1.4 to 12.5, Brian. So you get an idea. I dropped my sophomore year. I dropped 36 on Cal, and I had 30 on Washington as a sophomore. Just to give you some context.
So this is where this comes from. Yeah.
I mean, it's confidence, dude.
Yeah.
I mean, think about it. You're going into a place every single day where you're playing against the top NBA stars in the world as a 19-year-old sophomore at UCLA, having just won a national championship. So your opportunity to learn, to grow, to be a sponge, to soak up knowledge, IQ, understanding, etc., and then to observe work ethics. Work ethic is what I observed the most. So I knew if I wanted to do anything that I had to bust my butt like these guys were. And so, yeah, it was a great experience. And having that, and then from there, throughout the years, Michael and I, we were pretty cool. He called me a couple times. I've seen him several times. I used to go up to Santa Barbara to kind of hang out at his camp or whatever.
Sure.
But, so yeah, but that's why this movie, for me as a kid, I idolized Jordan. I like now when I open Twitter and I see people kind of defaming him or questioning him, I just can't believe it, because I come from the era, man. You don't question Michael Jordan.
No, you
because you are. That's the era I came, because we questioned him before, and he went 6-0, and that was the thing that people aren't understanding about Mike during this whole movie. He was questioned. Is he, just like Mike says throughout the entire series, or through the first several episodes, I wanted to be included in the same vein as Larry and Magic. And that had everything to do with championships. And he answered the call and he finished with one more than Magic. So for me, it's like, how do you say this guy only did that because the athletes were inferior to today's athletes?
Yeah.
How do you say that? He rose to his challenge. Every challenge that was in front of him, he rose to it. Even when he went and played baseball. Did you know Jordan had a 13-game hitting streak to start off in Double-A as a baseball player? He had a 13.
I did not.
He had a 13-game hitting streak to start off, and then they start throwing them curveballs. So everybody throwing them heaters to start off, and then they start throwing the hooks.
Yeah.
He just, he just way off. He way out in front of it. But he started off with a 13-game hitting streak. He got hit a home run. If you see this guy, like all the baseball guys say, if Michael Jordan had the reps, the at bats, you just need reps. It's like shooting 10,000 shots. It's 10,000 at bat. If he had it, he would have been a big leaguer. That's it. That's a testament to the athlete this guy was. Anyway, being around that, Bryan, did wonders for my confidence, just to put it mildly.
Yeah, I would have to say that's an understatement. And Kris, you can follow him on Twitter at @PointForwardPro. I'm on Twitter at Bryan Fenley. And goodness, I think, what was I going to say? There was something I was going to bring up. Oh, yes. Okay. So I want to get your dad's take on all this too, with the documentary that has come out and in his experiences with Michael. But you talked about this just a moment ago, how the game has changed a lot since Michael and now what it is now with LeBron James. And people might say, well, the guys now are more physical and they're better athletes, or they're used to better training and conditioning. But look, Kris, you would know better than me. It's a softer game now. There's more finesse.
Yeah,
the pounding that Michael Jordan took, we saw it in the documentary against the Pistons. Those guys were just physical. It was just bloodshed out there. And so for those that want to slight what Michael Jordan did in that it doesn't stand as good as it would in these days, I have a problem with that. And I would think that you do as well. And how about your father? I've been checking out his Twitter and chiming in on the documentary and what he's told you about. Was it true that Michael Jordan had a poster of your dad in his room?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, that's true. That's a true story. There was a famous Sports Illustrated shoot with Michael's got the umbrella and he's inside of his room. And so I discovered it several years ago. It's pretty well known now. Well, not well known, but through our family, it's well known.
Sure.
But no, the photo, there's Kareem. So Michael was a huge Adidas guy coming up. Nike back then was sort of the startup, if you will. They hadn't had a big part of the market of the shoe game back in mid 80s. Converse obviously was number one, where you had the Weapons, Magic, Bird, and all of them. And then you had a bunch of other companies kind of vying for second. Adidas was probably the most attractive choice for Michael, so he gravitated apparently to the Adidas guys. My dad was one of them, and so he had his poster. My dad's had this poster where he's going up in his Milwaukee number 8 Bucks jersey. Behind him is I believe it's the Milwaukee skyline, and then there's down below there's this big red. In white writing it says Johnson's Law, and then the font in the clouds in the sky, kind of the blue sky, you can read what goes up goes in. So what goes up goes in is Johnson's Law.
Sure.
And so Mike had that poster. But wait till you tune in to I'm hearing there's something special on episode 5 of The Last Dance. So
he's here. Okay, good.
It's one of those things that my dad, where I think he was always honored and in awe of the fact that Michael looked up to him. The fact that Michael held him in that regard, if you will. He always appreciated that. It's sort of, my dad is one of his, top validations. So the way he used to talk about Jordan, he was sort of, it's so funny because back then, these old heads, my dad was part of that old head crew. So he was there. He's before Magic. So he's before Magic, he's before Bird. He's 2 years before those guys. So he could be considered the old head crew. Um, they wasn't just trying to give up their standing in the league and their stuff just like that to some young kid as a freshman, as a
Yeah.
rookie. So that sentiment, I know it's hard to understand now because who Jordan became, but that sentiment back then through guys like my dad, 5-time NBA All-Star, guys like that, the sentiment was, Mike is definitely good, but I'm not bowing down, and maybe he now it's funny how these guys when they get older, you ask them about it, and they're just so effusive with praise, and they just give it up like they don't remember like I was there. And I remember specifically that you were not rolling with this Michael Jordan guy, and I was, because the shoes, the marketing campaign. Because you got to remember, for a while, they always felt like Michael was just marketed more than everybody else. Kind of like LeBron, getting a $100 million deal and kind of having all the commercials without winning the championship. You remember the fever, you remember the haterade behind LeBron for so many years with the Kobe, the puppets they had, all these different commercials and cartoons, and he hadn't won a ring. It was similar to what Michael had to experience as far as the animosity and the resentment. That's the word. Not animosity. I think it was just like resentment. This guy, he hasn't even won a championship.
Yeah.
And what's he doing on the cover of the New York Times? You know what I mean? It's like those type of scenarios.
But as much as Michael would dish out the trash talk, your dad would also stick up for himself and dish it right back to him.
Oh yeah, that's part of the culture, man. That's part of the culture back then. It wasn't, people. It didn't matter who you were, you could get it too. That's something that I think a lot of us that came out of that era we live by. We're not. I mean, we respect you, okay, but you fear no man. And if somebody's gonna talk some stuff to you, you got to go right back at him. I mean, what you gonna do?
Yeah.
Just bow down? I mean, back then it was more machismo. So back
Okay.
then it was more 80s. Think about it. We're in the 80s. This is pre a lot of the stuff now that's kind of viewed as, well, I don't like that type of stuff nowadays. But back then it was celebrated. Rambo, guns a blazing. You know what I mean? That machismo.
Sure.
So you had to stick up for yourself, and you had to talk and dish it right back. I mean, I went back and forth with Mike. I would go back and forth because I know that he didn't want you just to bow down and say, "Oh, you're the GOAT, you're the greatest. I don't have." He wants competitors to go at him. He wants people to come right back in with the ferocity that he's coming at you.
Sure.
And so, that was also one of the beauties of Mike. He accepted you for who you were. I can recall there was a time I got me and my former teammate Ike Nwankwo. I don't know if that name rings a bell, but he ended up transferring after a couple years at UCLA. He was on our championship team. He's on the roster. We ended up getting into a fight in the Jordan Dome that Michael had to break up. Yeah, so we get into a fight. I ended up punching Ike. Ike elbows me in the mouth. I end up punching him. He punches me. I fall. And then I'm on the ground, kind of dazed a little bit, and I look up. I'm about to try to get up and find Ike, and I look up, and it's Michael Jordan. Kris, what are you doing? Calm down. He's like this. That's your teammate. What are you doing? I'm like, all right, go, Jay. All right, Jordan. All right, chill out. I said, no, Mike. I wanted to get up and fight, but I mean, imagine how surreal it was for that. And then after that, Mike was like, something I heard him comment. That's why I love that kid. You know what I mean?
Really?
I mean, it's just stuff like that I was just like, man, this dude is one of the realest dudes that I've been around, and that was my experience. Everybody's experience is not going to be the same with Mike. You know what I mean? Everybody's not going to hold him in the same regard, the same esteem. But Michael Jordan, for much of my, as I say, childhood, adolescence, teenage years, and early adult years, he was truly a driving, inspirational force behind everything that I did. Just, I mean, I'm a sports guy like that, where I wake up and I think about stuff all day, and I go to sleep thinking about it. I'm like that too. So, so Jordan was that for me.
I can feel your passion. And I know that everybody who is going to consume this podcast is going to feel your passion as well. And I'm so grateful, first of all, Kris, that you understand who the GOAT is in the conversation of basketball. It is MJ. It is not LeBron James. I'm sorry. I think now the younger generation who did not get to watch Michael on a regular basis doesn't understand his greatness. And hopefully this documentary is giving them some insight on what made him so special. And how cool for you to this day have so many great experiences with Michael, that I'm sure you guys at one point will have your paths cross again. But Kris, this has been, I've had so much fun. This has been a blast, man. Thanks for doing this, dude.
Oh, absolutely, man. I love what you do, man. I see you have everybody on. I'm like, man, I got to get on there too, man. You're doing a great job, man. You're doing a great job, Bryan. Keep it up, bro.
Once this quarantine ends, it would be great to meet and talk more Bruin stories, because I eventually want to ask you, maybe this week, this is a tease for the next time, like you teased episode 5 in the documentary, that there's more stuff here. So here's our tease for another opportunity to interview you, is how far off are the Bruins now to getting back to what you experienced in a national championship? So that's what, maybe let that sink in your brain a little bit, and pontificate and meditate over that, and then we'll have a fun discussion on that.
Absolutely, man. I'm looking forward to it. I'm going to think about it too. So you better have me back on.